The news out of Europe was all about Spain, and the news was all bad. Over the weekend, Standard & Poor's cut Spain's sovereign debt rating by 2 notches down to BBB+, and that's only 3 levels above junk bond status. The unemployment data out of Spain was also pretty poor. Spain's unemployment has reached 24.4%, and it's approaching its highest level since March 1994. Approximately half of Spain's workers under 25 are unemployed. Spain's yields on its bonds, as would expected, did jump a little, but didn't break through the 6% barrier. On the other side of the Atlantic, also some not so good news. US GDP data showed that the US growth in GDP was around 2.2% to the end of the quarter, 31 March 2012. However, that was down from what analysts expected at about 3%, and it was driven predominantly by government's cuts in spending. So looking at the markets then, the Dow actually capped off a very good week, raising 24 points on Friday, well back through the 13,000 point barrier. In Europe too, most indices ended up on the right side of the ledger. In terms of currencies, the Kiwi had a good upward trend against the US dollar over the weekend, breaking up through the 82-cent barrier. Viewers remember a couple of weeks ago I talked about the importance of food security. Well, now the country that brought us Disneyland and lean, finely textured beef, or pink slime, has also discovered BSE in a cow last week. Given that US trade officials said that in terms of the last outbreak of BSE in 2004, it cost the US around $2 billion per annum in lost beef export receipts, what's likely to be the outcome of this latest outbreak? Well, there are 2 important things to bear in mind. Firstly, that the BSE is considered to be a typical BSE. What this means is it's more likely to be due to genetic factors rather than a failure of the feed security plan, which has been instituted since 2008. The other important point is that the cow in which the BSE found was a dairy cow, which means it was never intended to find its way into the human consumption chain. The initial impact of the outbreak was that some of the South Korean food retailers initially decided they weren't going to stock US beef. However, across the board, the impact in terms of the governments of the Asian countries has been relatively muted. So, for the time being, it would appear that US beef farmers are off the hook.